Dan Evers, the Economic Development Director for Grow-Licking County, which is the county's economic development entity. It comes in once a year to provide council with an update on. Oh, she did make it. To provide council with an update on Grow-Licking County's efforts, and also what it has meant for the city. I know I saw Doug Heffley earlier. Where's he at?
He's a drinking man.
Oh, is that what it is?
He's a drinking man.
He's the Mountain Dew man tonight. Okay. So John didn't have any other items on his agenda to discuss. So I asked Dan if he would come and provide that end of year update for council. So Dan, I think everybody knows you, so I don't think any formal introductions are needed. I'll just go ahead and give you the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for making time for me tonight, or during me. Maybe. We were talking about that before you got
here. Deb did decide it was better to listen to you than work and not get paid. So.
I bet you I won that race by a nose. My guess is she forgot her key and she had to leave everybody else. Thanks for having me out tonight, and an increase in growth. It certainly makes a difference for us, and
I think it is making a difference for the city as well. I hope so. Anyway, got a couple of items for you today.
And then I thought we'd just kind of talk a little bit and answer questions. First of which is our annual report. It's distributed originally in September at our annual meeting, which I believe a few folks attended. In addition to providing this to our investors and partners, we have provided it to a number of prospects, a number of clients, and selection consultants as well, which we will continue to do. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but it highlights what we think has been another successful year for Grow-Licking County and for Licking County. You will notice in here some we're equally
proud of and past year involving projects. 6 different communities, created over 1,500 new job opportunities, retaining almost 1,200, actually over 1,200 job opportunities, and leveraging $590 million in new investment. Throughout Lincoln County, and other projects with which we've been directly we've been involved indirectly in other projects. See another $300 million and over 1,500 new job opportunities countywide. And in a short period of time, we're pretty proud of those numbers. The other piece that brought along for everybody today was just our most recent activity update. These are distributed to the CIC board
at each of our regular meetings. We now meet 8 times a year. We're going to 6 in 2015, is that correct? Mike?
Yep.
6 in
Every other month.
Yeah, apparently we feel comfortable loosening the leash, which is nice. Most recent report, just to highlight a few things. We're continuing to reach out throughout the county about prospects and opportunities. We're doing R&E projects throughout the county. Outside investment opportunities, we have 70 active potential projects. 6 of them were received since summertime. This report's about 6 weeks old now. Those numbers actually are a little bit higher than that on both fronts. Just under half of the prospects with which we're working have done site community visits. 2/3 of them have asked follow-up information. And we see some rotation in the, we always include on those prospects that are no longer active, just to demonstrate that this churns a little bit. We're not just pancaking the numbers from period to period. What's encouraging to me is the distribution of the type of prospects. We've seen significant growth in the past 2.5 years in the manufacturing sector. That number, that percentage of prospects was less than 50% of the total when we started tracking these in mid 2012. So it has grown substantially, and we're continuing to see the overwhelming majority of leads coming in from the manufacturing sector versus logistics. When we first started tracking these, logistics was, I think, probably close to 1/3 of the total leads, total active prospects. And while we're still seeing them, we're seeing a reduced proportion to the manufacturing. Seen a little bit of growth of activity in 2 areas lately, data center and back office. We're seeing a little bit. That's always going to be an area where we can compete selectively, or where our opportunities are presented selectively, because there's a percentage of those folks who just want to be in an urban center. The bandwidth is bigger, the proximity to other customers is bigger. They can get multiple cable providers at less cost because they're all in or around the urban core. But some don't. Some prefer, for security reasons, to go off the beaten path. Some are strategically located between other centers. So we've seen a little bit of growth in that area where we're able to respond and present options. Similarly, food processing. We've had probably a double the number of food processing leads in the last 6 months versus the previous 18, give or take. And because we have newer products, we didn't expect products in the market, and quite specifically, not to be sucking up here, but in Heath, we're able to respond to those food processing prospects because, I'm trying to tell you, because it's similar industry segment, their specifications are really tight. We can't just say, okay, well, we've got these 6 empty buildings, take your pick. Buildings have to be food grade quality or able to be upgraded to food grade. And able to be upgraded is always the second choice. If there's nothing in the market that's already food grade or able to be finished at food grade, then they'll consider the upgrades. But having spec product in the market today and the opportunity to have spec product in the market in the future allows us to compete at, I think, a distinct advantage in that arena as well, because it's just, that's not a Licking County issue. That's an everywhere issue. There's just not a lot of food grade buildings sitting around vacant, and if they sit around vacant for a period of time, then they cease to be food grade as well.
What, on those prospects, Dan, do you know, and I know that sometimes the information that you get, especially initially, is limited. Those prospects, for the most part, are they making Twinkies? Are they meat packers? Are they bagging soybeans? What are they doing?
Generally speaking, they're slaughtering groundhogs.
Well, freeway.
So again, we compete well with proximity to 70 and 79. It's a mix of uses. There are some that we have seen, based on the preliminary information, or a lot of times, Mayor, as you are well aware, when we get a lead from the state or from Columbus 2020, in particular, they are extremely vague. We get a type of user, we get some utility requirements, ceiling height, square footage, those types of things, but very little about specifically what it is, unless it's essential to the water and sewer requirements or something unique about facility requirements that you say they must have because they smash items. But a number, when we've done some follow-up on a number of those leads, what we're finding is that there's a percentage of folks that are traditional food, a small percentage of the traditional food processing, not really meat packers per se, but who are doing some, who are receiving already rendered product and they're doing some flash freezing or seasoning, repacking, distribution. What we're seeing an interesting growth in are chemical-related food products, additives, seasonings, spices that aren't being added to anything there, but that are being created at the site, flavorings. So it's more.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's food grade, but it's more. It's almost more a technology company. It's more about chemistry than it is about food. Food chemistry.
More MSG.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We're getting more McCormick spices than McCormick and Schmidt.
And
Yes, ma'am.
is all of the data being housed by Columbus 2020 now?
All of which.
All of the data, like regarding all of this kind of information, is it all going? Because when I was leaving, I was kind of transitioning over that direction. It seemed like things were starting to work well, and
I think they are.
that you were still able to, get any of the data that you needed, and you were
Yes.
still able to have input. So it seemed that partnership has turned out much better than anticipated.
I think better than ever, far better than everyone feared.
Yeah. That's the way to put it.
The folks at Columbus 2020 house the overwhelming majority of the data, and as you see on the lead source piece, we get our leads really from, well, we get them from a number of places, but because I was told we're being math, we just break it down into 4 primary areas for leads. There's still you guys on my board, so I gotta make it simple. As an aside, by the way, I bought my son OU sweats for Christmas.
Really? Yeah.
There you go.
He's at OU.
No, he's at Ohio State.
Appreciated that.
Well, his girlfriend goes to,
Okay.
or is going to OU. He's making noise about transferring, so. No? Yes, sir.
Other questions,
Yes, sir.
my usual questions.
I was getting around to it now.
Oh, I'll jump ahead.
No, that's all right.
Well, give us an update on the mix of inquiries, how many are with you, normally
Sure.
we're in the close to half, if not a little better than half, which is awesome. 2, what can we do better to improve that even more? And 3, what's the impact of the, it seems to be the escalating importance of the Cherry Valley Road interchange on this whole mix here?
Okay. We are, we'll lead into that just a little bit, and tie this lead source up and find out this question. I think we have a good partnership with Columbus 2020. When we look at the areas that are generating leads, Jobs in Ohio and Columbus 2020 are really 1-2 in terms of lead generation. And we get a lot of shared leads. We get a lead in today that first we get it from Jobs in Ohio, then it comes back from Columbus 2020. And we send our stuff back typically for the Columbus 2020. But it's a very open, it's pretty open access to us. We submit data. In fact, Columbus 2020 has been helpful in many cases when we have to submit through the state has an online database of sites and facilities. If it's a state lead, you have to typically use that database. There are times when we'll have a facility that's either just been newly added to the database, and so it doesn't show up on a lead, or there'll be a slight variation from the specs. 2020 has been really helpful. We call them up and say, look, this is a good day. This needs to be in the mix. And because of the success we've had as a community and because of the work we've done, they're familiar with most of our sites and buildings at this point. In fact, I will frequently get calls from Columbus 2020 right after a lead comes out saying, hey, Dan, what about Coyote Drive? What about da-da-da? Submit. Okay, good. We just want to double check. So I think that partnership has worked well. The other thing that I'm really proud of is almost a quarter of the leads that we have in under 3 years. I'm really proud of that because I think it says a lot of things. I think it says focus about them, but I think it says a lot of good things about the partnership that we have established in so much as communities are contacting us, communities are referring companies directly to us within the county. Developers are referring prospects to us and reaching out to us because they believe in the network and they've seen that, hey, you know what, this thing's working, nobody's got favored nation status, the information comes out and you get the right people in the room. I'm really proud of that. Looking over, you can see the leads and responses. This is a rolling, the report we give to our board is a rolling 13-month look at both of those sets of data, both leads and responses on the top, and then comparative unemployment data on the bottom. But I went back in anticipation of this meeting and this question. Since January, and I appreciate the question very much because it's good for me to be cognizant of that. And what are we doing in more than just a kind of a anecdotal sort of way? It helps me make sure we're not missing things and then be able to focus where we are. We've had exactly 100 leads come in since January through one of those 4 channels. We have responded to 82 of them with some product site facility. Those to which we did not respond, one of 3 reasons. In a very few cases, I think 2, it could be either 2 or 4, the parameters were changed after, the geography was changed after we received the lead. And sent it back out to our, get a lead, send it in, or we'd send it out, and then 2 hours later, we'd get an email back from almost 28 states that we're now only considering nuclear stuff. We're now only considering sites from Nathan South. In other cases, we simply did not have a facility. The second cases we simply had a facility only search, simply did not have a facility to match the parameters. Usually, that's a high ceiling, a disproportionately high ceiling.
30-foot high ceiling
Correct.
allowance, or 500 square feet under roof, or whatever.
Exactly, that's right, yeah. You know, we have 24-foot clear height, except for 10,000 square feet that needs to be 35. And you've seen a couple of those, and we have half a dozen like that, or so. And then the others are geographic restrictions. Somebody's looking for a minimum of 500 acres. More often, what we find is someone is looking for, and we've had this come up at least twice in the last quarter, unfortunately, where there will be an exclusion on the site search, not within a quarter mile of residential, or not within a mile. We had one there, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. We had a site search. It was site only, not sites or facilities. Cannot be within a mile of residential. You find that site in Lincoln County with water and sewer. Yeah, God bless you. You know, we have those sites in the eastern side of the county, but they don't have very much other service. So that's how we fare. The leads to which we don't respond are because we have nothing with which to respond. Out of the 82 leads that we sent out, and did the math, I could be off a percentage or two on this, but this year it looks like 66% of the responses included at least one people.
Wow. 2/3.
Yes.
The number just keeps going.
It does, and I think there are. Well, I think there are probably 3 reasons for that. One of which is product. When Southgate announced it was going to build a spec building, fortunately, it looks just like the last 2 buildings they built. And so we took a footprint, and the promotional material was kind of easy to produce. And we took that product and put it in the state's database right away instead of available fourth quarter 2014. We've had some movement with a couple of property owners who have large tracts of land that had been disinclined to break it. I'll wait for this one big user. We've had several conversations over the course of the year, and those folks have said, all right, well, you got a 30-acre user? Fine. Put my site in there, and we'll at least have the conversation. And the same thing with a couple of facilities that folks have tenants, but they're not long-term leases, they're month-to-month type leases, and we decided, why don't you at least submit these? I think we've persuaded people to think a little differently. And I think the activity has, again, I don't know, I'm not going to be all that persuasive, I'm just calling it asking the question. But I think that the market activity is causing people to say, well, I can sit around and wait for something that may never come, or I can at least start getting into the discussion. Which is, to my mind, is great, because if we have 2 people from Heath, or 5 people from Lincoln County saying, yes, submit my site, and we get them in, and we have had this on 2 occasions that I can immediately recall where we'd submit, say, 5 sites, and they would, 2020 Jobs Ohio would say, okay, well, we're going to come in and we're going to visit these 3. We're going to physically be on the ground in these 3 sites. In each of those occasions, one of them been here. But we get them to look at the other 2 sites as well, even if it's just on the windshield once they drive by.
I know that the union has been notified by people that in February the work is going to be done. So,
Okay.
I just want
Talking about the assembly line work that they announced last year, or I guess it was earlier
There's
this year.
68 people working. There's 68 total people in the plant. And they've already told them that as of February that they would be laying them off. And that, I guess the way that they tell them that the doors are going to be pretty close. I just wondered whether that site right there, that's a heck of a building right there.
It is.
That's 500,000 square feet under roof.
Yeah.
Now, it's older,
Yeah,
but
but they have
but
done a lot of
if
work.
the company will play ball
I just
with us, I would like to see us have a chance to either fill that whole building or cut it and.
I just learned that yesterday from the president of the union.
Yeah.
So,
Good to know. And
Yeah.
we had some discussions with them several months back
oh, okay.
when we had with the corporate folk,
Mhm.
because
Yeah, that's
they were not telling, and I understand, you don't want
Yeah.
to, you never want to say, you know, honey, about 6 months from now, I think we're going to get divorced. Don't tell the kids. So I appreciate their perspective, but we had some discussions about, hey, hypothetically, if you're not using the whole building anymore, which we knew, could we submit, and we sent several leads their way and said, look, this is you. We could do this. And at that point, that's not a discussion we want to have yet. But with this information, it's a discussion we should have again, or we've tried to have. So thank you. That's what
I'm
what can we do?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, then. Yeah.
Pardon me. I said this last year, and I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know there's much more. I think the things that are being done are what needs to be done. I think, and I told the mayor this recently, and I want to say it because the guys are in the room. But some things just have to be shared more than once. When we get a lead, I mentioned to the mayor on a project, when we get a lead, there are 6 sites that I know qualify countywide. There are 6 sites with facilities in the county that match up. I am qualified. Zoning, permits, proposed use, if there's something funky.
Because I know that when I reach out to Tom, and last guys I call, and 9 times out of 10, the first guys that get the answers. They need to be comprehensive, not just I get data. I get stuff that all I have to do is save it in a different form and send it right in. And they're the greatest. They're just fantastic partners. They truly are.
Could you say that a little louder? Scream it everybody.
Just in case the mic went up.
Yes,
Fantastic partner. And I mean that most sincerely. They're great to work with, and the community as a whole is great to work with. the development community that's here. It's great to work with. And I think some of the things, what I would encourage you to do is not necessarily anything better, but continue on this path. And I think the city has also been one of the most aggressive in its approach to development. We're starting with doing something, creating the incentive program, being willing to use it.
Second meeting tonight, by the way. Cal, you like this? Cal?
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Cal, like this?
Go ahead and talk a little bit about
Talk
that.
about
Dan.
this.
I think let's get that. Because one of the things, and I alluded to this earlier, and I wasn't seeing the clouds for tonight. It's Robert O'Neill. We talked about South Point 2020 earlier. People and the guys at 2020, Kenny McDonald, who's the head of 2020, has said to me, I've got other people, and jokingly said, you're getting in trouble in our community. Why? Because they think you're getting all the love and you're getting all the deals. Good. I hope they keep thinking that. I hope it's right. But, and he has said, he has pointed out two things to these people, to my colleagues in other communities. Number one, we get workforce. We understand who to have in the room. We understand how to bring people together. Our partner agencies are actually partner agencies. They're not just agencies we got to force to partner.
CTEC, COTC, those.
Bahamas Jobs, Lincoln County. Yeah. All of those folks get, and more. The Manufacturers Council, Experion, we brought Jeff Kirk, who was president of the Manufacturers Council at the time, brought him into the room, sat him down, talked eloquently for 10 minutes on what it's like to operate in this community, operate a business in this community. And the other thing Kenny said that he is telling them is, he said, look, get your workforce picture in order. They're progressive. They get it. You know what else they got? They got product. Somebody wants a building and a pad-ready site. You know where I send them? One place they got it. So it's not about liking you more. He said, it ain't about liking Dan. It's about, they've got product over there.
Turnkey inventory.
That's exactly right. And we find increasingly, and the mayor can vouch for this and show you the leads. I get beat up by our partners on the development side on a semi-regular basis because we send out leads and we give them maybe 48 hours to turn it around, because that's what we're getting. And when we send out, when we get a lead, if it's due at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, it has to be back into the state, or Columbus 2020, I typically tell our real estate partners, you have to be by noon on Wednesday. We'll work it out. We'll fill in all the blanks and we'll get it there. Give you as much time as possible to do your part. And occasionally some of them actually do their part. But because that window, that window is so compressed now, and when Mark Simmons was in town for our annual meeting, he talked about this and a little bit about it.
He's the consultant with Parker Poe who worked with Experion as their site location consultant.
Right. And one of the things that he said to us in his keynote, and it was carried in the paper, is something that we've heard from a lot of consultants, but he's one of the first ones to say it in a room full of people. They're not in site selection business, they're in site elimination business at this point. And if you have product, if you have a spec building, or if you have steel coming out of the ground, if you've got sites that are subdivided and platted and drawings available and 3 buildings that you can point to say, yeah, we're getting ready to break ground on this one tomorrow. And in 9 months, you can be picking out your wall covering, and ask them and ask them and ask them, then you are laps ahead of the competition. And Southgate has been approached. I don't think Robert would tell you this, but Southgate's been approached by other communities in the region, and even a couple of the Appalachian border counties, to, hey, we'll give you land. We'll give you 7 acres to build a spec building, because nobody's doing it anywhere else. Now, fortunately for us, and give me a family that's going over Lincoln County, and fortunately for us, they've had success here. That, you know, they take that risk, they take it with their bank, but everybody knows what we've got here, and so they're comfortable with that level of risk. They may or may not be as comfortable with it in the shop center.
Bob also said what you said, working with John and Eddie has made it such a smooth process that they know what they've got there as well. And
Right.
I think that
And you can speak.
GROF.
Well, and the proof of that sentiment is that his company owns land in other parts of Licking County. And he acquired land from the Port Authority on Kaiser Drive for the 50,000 square foot building that he's currently building. And he is invested in this plan to continue to build buildings, and to continue to acquire land from the Port Authority and build buildings here.
And plenty of it. It's not like he's got 2 acres and he's trying to figure out what to do next. He has buku buildable sites.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge step. I think that what you are contemplating here, yes. As before we can do better, this is a nice step in diversification and a nice array of different sized buildings to meet the demand for not only the 50,000 square foot vanilla building, 15, 20, whatever.
Right.
Serious demand for your inquiries.
There are, and that's a spot that 15 to 20 range. 2 things happen in that space. Number one is that you get growth companies, and companies that are a little more technology oriented and technology enabled manufacturing, but they have that tech bent to them, and they have a rapid growth opportunity, which also means you can move them right down the street when they outgrow that.
Or we can expand the existing
Right.
on this footprint.
Yeah, you can
That's
go
like all
from
most
20
of
to
the-
40, and if you need more, great. We can bump out. The 50s, the 50,000 spec bumps out to 100. So when you get done with your 40, we can roll you into that. But the other thing is that right now that there is just, once again, it's kind of like the food processing market. If you want a good 20,000 square foot building in this market today, you got to close your eyes and imagine it, because they're just not out there. And part of it is price point. It's just the shift in. Years ago, that wasn't a bad place to. That was not a bad square footage, but
Economies of scale.
just aren't there anymore.
Make it tough.
Make it tough. And if you have that, people will come. I love the movie, but I hate the phrase. If you build it, they will come. But we will see activity in that square footage, based in that range. And the other thing that it does, kind of like the 50,000 square foot spec buildings, is if you show somebody one, I'm sure, probably that I told you the story, and if not, if the mayor has, experience where they are, because they fell in love with the building in Hebron, and it got leased out from under them, and collectively, we were able to demonstrate to them that that building could be replicated in their time frame on that site. So if you get somebody coming in to look at that 20,000 square foot building, and somebody has just taken it, or somebody else is very interested, and it's lovely, it's almost perfect. How fast can you build another one? Could you build another one just like it, except put the office over on the left side? Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can do that too. So you just create more market opportunity for yourself, and it reinforces the collaborative, progressive nature of the community. And that is something else that Mark Simmons' site selection consent talked about. That, you guys are doing things other people aren't doing, and that's cool, and we're not going to forget that. We will tell our clients. In fact, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, checking a referral for something else. And he said he's down in South Carolina. He said, Dan, I just want you to know, we're still looking for clients for you, since we want to do business with you guys up there again. You know, that's.
We do too.
Yeah, well, we'll be here.
I want to mention, and first of all, David Morrison is sick, and so he's not going to be with us tonight. But I asked John Geller to come, as you will be voting tonight, hopefully, on the agreement for the development of this 40 acres. You know, it obviously comes with investment on the city's part. The installation of the water and sewer lines out of our water and wastewater capital improvement funds, as well as up to $300,000 for the approximately $500,000 road. I've talked to Dan. Benefits us in that he has worked for governmental entities before. He's been the person in communities trying to make projects like this happen. So he has a good knowledge of what we're able to do and what our flexibilities are. Dan and I were talking about the repayment into the water and wastewater capital improvement funds of the money to install the lines here. And I think everybody's aware when tap fees that are paid for go into those capital improvement funds. By policy, though, we have the ability to be even more flexible. Let's say we have, and not every manufacturing user is a huge water and wastewater consumer. Experion, for instance, is not what I don't think they're going to be a huge water and wastewater user. But I think we know, obviously, that some manufacturers definitely are big utility users. By policy, we could say that the utility payments made by businesses in the area, the city has the option of, after determining the at-cost amount for that water production and wastewater handling, any excess will go into the water and wastewater capital improvement funds to help build those funds back up sooner. We could even say, by policy, that up to X% derived from businesses on this development could go toward water and wastewater until those
pots have been replenished. And what I think that allows us to do, utilizing that kind of flexibility, I mean, here's what I envision. This 40-acre site will go well for us. And there's another one right across the road from it.
with a couple of sites on the back that would actually be rail served. It's certainly within the realm of possibility to see this type of initiative replicated on the other side of the road. We would want to make sure that we were in a position to do what we could to make that happen when that success comes. I think, and I've said this, I think to Dan before, and I think maybe to John Groff, the Newark Industrial Park that Southgate developed in Hebron and Union Township, that was what, 20, 30 years ago that it was kind of developed. And I think that for a while, Heath kind of looked at that with a bit of envy. Obviously, there's a lot of great manufacturers out there that have a very sizable job base in that area. And wouldn't it have been nice back then if the development had been in Heath? I see this as taking a step toward that type of industrial park development here in the city, finally. The park within a park concept that Rick talks about, in the Central Ohio Aerospace and Technology Center. I'm excited for this, and I think that we should be prepared for it to succeed and give ourselves the flexibility to ensure that with its success, we're in a position then to replicate it and build on the momentum and build on the success. I think everything that I read coming from various sources, this manufacturing growth is real. Jobs are being reshored in the United States instead of being sent offshore now for various reasons. European markets are seeing the advantages of being in North America as opposed to being in Europe and then having to ship to North America. I think this is a well-timed project.
It also creates diversity in the economic base, which you can't put a price on it.
Yeah.
You can, and Keith could tell you exactly what it is. It's income tax collection. One of the communities where I worked many years ago had 2 paper mills. And just beyond that, just beyond the borders of the community, in the next town over was a General Motors plant. And the guys I grew up with, when you get out of high school, you either went to college or you went to work at one of the mills or one of the plants. And I remember my buddies just laughing at me for going to school and getting in all that when they had trucks and boats paid for and dirt on Cumberland every weekend, and us bagging groceries and whatnot in the summer. And everybody had the very same perspective, which is, they'll never close that. They'll never close that mill. GM is going to make Camaros until they make flying cars. They'll never close that plant. Not one of them is open today. And I'm old, I ain't had it. When you have a diversity in your economic base, you don't want to lose any company, but if somebody closes a 20,000 square foot facility, first off, it's a lot easier to fill. For a 50,000 square foot facility, it's a lot easier to remake it. 500,000 square feet, it's great. When that one user comes along that wants it, that one user comes along a couple, 3 times a decade.
Short list.
Right. Very short list, and they can make this.
So what was the peak employment Rockwell there back in the 70s or 2000?
2,100, 2,200.
Yeah.
That was union. Probably
2,500
front
total
office,
maybe?
there was probably another 400 or 500, so there's probably 2,700 people in it.
To talk about what you just said, if we lost that company 20, 30 years ago, we would have been a serious economic devastation. Not only this one, but the whole community.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been able to weather through the constant deterioration and migration of those jobs to the south from that facility. We're down to 60 jobs now. Diversification is the key.
It is, and it create, when you do that, when you have that diverse economic base, and the other things that we talked about in terms of the partnership, you're also building much higher opportunity for the folks that have to transition. You're never, businesses go out of business, businesses move, and there's often very little people do about it. But when they do, if there are other opportunities here, because you've got a diverse economy, because you have a growing economy, because you've got new investment coming, it softens the blow for those folks.
These are living wage jobs. These aren't retail secondary type jobs. These are living wage type opportunities.
Absolutely.
If we're a Newark Industrial Park in Heath, whoever it has a building, probably through Bob's, a lot of buildings, but there's a building down there, I can't remember which one it is, but it's one that Brentag originated in. And we looked at it a few times, and Robert's like, there's no way I'm ever selling this building. And I'm like, why would you never sell this building? He said, because we've had too much success with it. It's the only building I have that I can put a company in, and I know within 2 years I'm building a building somewhere else. I'm moving into another building. He said it's a nice stepping stone. And these buildings that we're talking about getting here, it's going to be gone before we know it. It's going to be, before you know it. I know from experience looking. And then the other problem you get into is that, you know, 50,000 might be too much for a smaller company, square foot, but they need that 20,000 square foot. And for the developers like, well, if I'm going to build a 20,000 square foot building, I got a sprinkler. I got all these new things, all the building requirements you have to do with the building that size. They brought out building with 50,000 square foot building. So for Robert to do that, he's somewhat shooting himself in the foot. He could build a big building, the 50,000 square foot building, for a lot less money.
Well, the Port Authority has the designs on building at the 20,000, but which
Right.
the Port Authority is unique from Southgate in that the Port Authority does have a mission, so to speak, for job creation in the area. They're able to perhaps absorb some of those factors that would otherwise make it real tough to put on the market a brand new 20,000 square foot building.
Right. I guess what I was getting at is there's not going to be a lot of those, and not just O'Neill. The Port Authority and O'Neill, they're both going out and them to do that. And it's going to work. It's going to fly.
It absolutely will. I mean, you're almost creating not just a park and a park, but also a manufacturing incubator in that same space.
I'd kind of like to comment on a couple things. Everything sounds terrific, and I think it's great. I hope everything progresses the way that we all think it's going to in this room. But I also, too, want us to be aware and be careful of the amount of money that we spend on these kind of developments. It's not that I'm against them in any way, I'm for them. But the funds that you're taking them from grow very slowly. And that's what the mayor was talking about, where we're coming up with some different ideas to help build those funds back up. Because you're talking, 10 years out before you see money back into those funds where you're at right now. My guesstimation is, at least. So, when you take money from your capital improvements of the water and wastewater, make sure that you try to fund that back, money back into those coffers, so that if that is successful, because even though that's successful across the street there, it's going to take a while to get those funds built back up to do the next one across the street. So make sure that when you do make this decision that you want to do this cooperation, which is great, for industrial growth, make sure you have things in place to replace that money out of capital improvements. That's all I'm going to throw out there.
And that, John, is exactly the gist of the conversation that Dan and I had. I was talking about that. How, you got tap fees that go in there and such, but You know,
I
it's
think I
not,
figured
it's not as though
tap
there's
fees in
150 home developments that are budding at various points around the
Estimated
city.
tap fees on the 7 locations probably somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000. Is what would that would the tap fees would be? You know, if it's going with the size of Experion and so forth. Most of those buildings take like an inch tap. Okay, that's like a $3,500 fee. So that's the kind of money, the development, that's where your capital improvement comes from. So just be aware of building these funds back up, have some kind of alternative that Dan suggested, the mayor suggested. Don't just do it and then let it set, because it won't build up. It's going to take time for those funds to build back up.
Plus, we have 7 new commercial water and sewer users. We're going to generate revenue as well.
That's
By the way, here, but you got to put that in the mix as well.
That's true, but usually I'm hoping that they're big users.
Well, even if they're average users.
But we have, usually, and I'm trying to think off of the Dan, when Dan gets a lead, he sends it out to the community. He shotguns it out. Various people, me being one of them. At least one, I'd say about 1 out of every 4. I think, how much water would they use? How much wastewater would they use? It's kind of makes me think that from a utilities perspective, it would be it'd be helpful to have that prospect land.
No, there are absolutely, and it's just a scenario where everybody's correct. A typical user profile for a lot of the companies wouldn't generate expensive amounts of water and sewer initially. Might be expansion, but that being said, we see a number of users, number of leads come in that the square footage or the acreage would be consistent with that park in the park, and that could generate some above average usage, and by association some above average fees or revenue.
So where the food processing comes in, food processing type of clean plants, those are high water consumption users.
And almost anything with almost any chemical life science kind of thing has this.
Samuel Stratton is a pretty good. That's an example of a pretty decent water user and sewer user. If you could get several of those in there, then that would help.
We need a brewer.
We do.
For a variety of reasons.
They'll use water.
Yes, they do. They got to put it somewhere.
Talk a little bit, Dan, about, since you were here last year, Allie came on board.
Yes, she did.
Talk a little bit about how she's helped to broaden the scope of Grow-Licking County and making many more aware of what we have here.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Since last year, we hired a part-time marketing and project management specialist, Allison Fisher, and Allie has been a big help. She's been at the MD for about 6 months, and it is making some real inroads. Part of what
we talked about last year was wanting our website to be more vibrant, it to be more robust, and we wanted to be able to really build our database, not just of sites and facilities, but to have the next level and the next 2 levels of information on those sites and facilities. Acreage, square footage, yes, no on utilities, but what are the capacities, what are the sizes,
so that we can respond very rapidly and accurately. And, you know, the functional reality is that occasionally John and John Nettie take a day off. And, you know, if I need to know, if we get stuck, and that we will get a call where somebody will occasionally say, we got somebody coming to town tomorrow, what can we put together? Allison has been really almost invaluable in this of information. She also has been critical in cleaning up the database and expanding it.
We have for commercial industrial realtors, as well as site selection consultants. That's important because we're about to do our first direct marketing piece on behalf of Burlington County and the county as a whole to that community, to the industrial brokerage community, to the site selection professionals. We're going to include a trinket and a little profile of one of our businesses, and it's going to be part of a repetitive series where we're going to look at companies all over the county and do a little profile on what they do and why it's interesting and unique, why they, and the testimonial, why they do better. Here's why we chose here, or here's why we've grown here, or both. And then something that either ties into that particular company or that reflects the county. Allie has combed the database and we now have an accurate list of about 400 key contacts and appropriate contacts. We started in this past year doing print and online advertising. This is an example in site selection publications. We're in, this past year we were in 4 different publications. We also did a co-sponsoring of a site consultant event in Columbus. We were in front of about a dozen site selection professionals sharing information about our community, in their hands. We had a couple of folks from the community, Rick Black and myself, who were at the events, interfacing directly with those folks.
No, not quite.
Yeah, I couldn't get some. But yeah, well, you know, story of my life. Allie's helped work directly with our marketing and PR firm on refining those ads and helping write a little bit of that copy that went into the editorial piece, and has really handled a lot of the detail in the past year, putting together, which we did some of the graphics in the annual report. She's been responsible for expanding information on the website, enabling us to. I mean, there's that little gap between what you want to do and what you have the time and capacity to do, and Allie's basically closed that gap for us, so that we're now in trade publications, in print and online. We were part of an email blast to one of the major different site selection publication, to its readership 2 weeks ago. And we did another one in February. We've engaged with another consultant to help us identify prospects to participate in trade shows. If we can't physically participate in trade shows, to represent on our behalf at those trade shows. We then get leads back from them. We've got, as a result of those combined initiatives that I just talked about, we've probably picked up 50 leads in the last 4 months. That we're staying, you know, they're a little bit warmer leads, but they're not project ready today. What's nice about it is it gives us the ability to create a relationship with folks early on in the process and to establish a rapport, to get some information in front of them that we control a little bit more. And possibly in a number of cases to be their first point of contact instead of going through one of the regional agencies. And there's not a thing wrong with that, but I'm confident in our ability to compete with any of the 11 counties in the central Ohio region. That being said, I prefer not to have to. So, you know, it's just ratcheting up our marketing and our outreach, and we talked about that last year, and it's been talked about since the inception of the organization. To hear the things we're going to do. We're going to do some creative things. We're going to do some different things. We're going to do aggressive things to tell our story. And Allie's enabling that to happen already in 2014, and we've got an aggressive plan in 2015. And she'll be a big part of it.
We should all be thankful for the efforts of Dan and Allie in helping to put together the evening with Hendrik Barkland that we had a couple Wednesdays ago when he was in town from DC, and then the next day as well when he had an opportunity to meet with the folks from Experion and hear from them in his own language, literally, why they decided to locate here. Allie and Dan did great work in helping to make his visit here I think a productive one for him, and I think will prove to be a productive one for us as well.
Absolutely, and hats off to the mayor. You're being very gracious. You drove that bus a long way, and if it hadn't been for your initiative and your persistence, you wouldn't have been here in the first place. And your eloquence that night, it wouldn't have been as effective in the evening either. But the mayor's absolutely right. I mean, we have a partner now in the German embassy. We have a guy who said we hope we can stop by if when we're there on the fly-ins in DC, and his response was, "Well, you better." Which is an observation from a German, which I guess you don't trifle. But he's also connecting us with the German-American Chamber of Commerce. So there's another pipeline to companies looking at foreign direct investment in the U.S. And while the German-American Chamber has a strong relationship with Columbus 2020, us having that relationship does two things. It puts the region even more on their map, and it gives them another direct contact. And do I think they'll typically interface with 2020? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. But do I think they'll take our calls now, since the head of the embassy's economic and business section said, "I want you to meet some guys"? Yes, I do think they'll take our calls. Yes, I do think they'll respond to our emails. And even in little small things, from our Twitter account, Burlington County has, we've been trumpeting Mayor Barkling's visit and throwing up photos and throwing up links to the stories that were in it. Well, frankly, much to our surprise, in the middle of his first day here, the German embassy starts retweeting our information and our pictures to its 23,000 followers, many of whom are German companies, many of whom are consultants to German companies.
the ambassador himself even had to tweet out basically an explanation of what all this was. In
Right.
essence, he was the head of our economy and commerce sections in Lytton County, Ohio.
Yeah, for those who are following along at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was, yeah, and you know, you don't know. I mean, in this multiple platform world, you don't know who's going to look at this, and it's mentioned in the article that you know, they posted pictures of us, and it's basically a reworked edition of the Advocate story on the German embassy website. So everybody that's going to the German embassy website for anything is seeing this story, seeing pictures of us, still seeing links to our Twitter account. And it's very clear in there that, because Herr Barkling says, my first trip outside of D.C. Well, you know, somebody's going to wonder what it was about us that, you know, made him so special. It made us, you know, what is it that got this guy? Nowhere in the article does it say we were the first one to ask. You know,
There's a world of the world outside the Beltway, isn't there?
yeah,
What about that?
You know, and he says very complimentary things and very accurate things, and somebody's going to wonder about it. You know, somebody's going to say, well, you know, it's worth the cost of an email to find out what these guys are doing.
You know, we duplicate that in another industrialized nation, Japan or something else.
And that's the
Wow, that would
conversation.
be awesome.
That's exactly the conversations we're having. Is who do we have this conversation with next? What, and to what the mayor and I have talked about this, and we've talked to Rick and commissioners.
Where do you go on Embassy Road next?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Who are we going to visit? Who are we going to visit this year?
Industrialized nations. London.
You know, Rick
China.
Platt
Oh.
himself went on a 2020 visit to Germany. Was it northern Germany or southern Germany? Where was he? I can't remember.
Sounded like he was all over Germany to me, but
Yeah.
I think predominantly the north.
Yeah, and you know, out there with 2020, and these folks at 2020 were not just making cold calls on places. They had reasons to be meeting with the people they were meeting with. And there's Rick, you know, representing us.
Not just representing. When he was there as an emissary of Licking County, I didn't was important.
You're taking the time out of your evening
It is
to
my pleasure.
come and give us an update. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything?
As you know, my name is Carter.
Hello, yes, you'd like to see our friends in Jersey Township next. Oh, is that right? That's it. Okay. The Cherry Valley Road. I never did get around to that, did I? Does that really bring a positive
Yes. It absolutely.
icing on the cake to this whole process of we just get back then?
It absolutely is, because what it creates, in a way similar when I was talking about data centers earlier, and I said they like to be in urban centers because you can get multiple feeds. It's the same thing for real estate. If you can point to a site on Thornwood Drive, or a site on Kaiser, or west side of California, and say, two, maybe 3 ways for you to get people and truck traffic in, and one's as good as the next, and this one's a little better and brand new. It really, I think, it has huge potential to change the game, because there's a lot of land in that corridor that most people don't think about as potential industrial sites right now, because it's not along what you would consider to be an industrial.
Because they're planting soybeans and corn.
Well, that's good. That's a big reason as well.
Even though the zoning is them, and it's all around.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, you know, as with Larry, I talked to one reporter last year when it was from the 161 corridor, and he said, well, why doesn't they run more growth? And I said, what do you need? First off, setting aside the fact that there's like $250 million invested out there, which some people would consider real growth, not everyone wants to sell. And, you know, and that's okay too. Everybody's got a price, and some people will wait. But some people are waiting. And, you know, and some folks are planting soybeans in anticipation of, you know, what do you really want to grow out there? And as a councilman I used to work for, Hamilton used to say, there's still no law against natural profit. I think it truly has the potential to be a game changer. And frankly, probably more here than most people when they look at that and contemplate the interchange. I think they say, oh, and it'd be nice for people.
We could have the greatest economic impact on something that doesn't even locate in our own city. It's not even in our corporation there. We could realize the greatest impact.
I think that is extremely likely. Personally.
What are the chances of that happening?
The interchange itself, I think it's looking good.
I think it's up.
I think it's escalating rapidly.
Yeah.
You know, when you start,
And you know the other thing you're seeing too, there's a video, it's out on YouTube, isn't it? Didn't Jerry Newton put it out there? Okay. There's a video that Jerry Newton, the county, put together on that interchange, basically making the pitch to ODOT, okay, to fund this thing. And he talked to me, he talked to Rick Platt, and it wasn't because, you know, it wasn't because we think that traffic light on 16 is a pain in the butt. It was to emphasize the fact that not only is this an opportunity to make much better a pretty dangerous traffic situation on 16, but it's also a big step toward the larger picture of development potential on the Thornwood Drive corridor. I mean, that was part of the argument. That was part of the conversation.
Safety first, comments second.
There you go.
when you see the thing that the dispatch had, the backup traffic at some railroad pass over almost that they want to make put an underpass there because people are sitting in traffic for 15 or 20 minutes. They're not talking about 16 being backed up for 2 or 3 miles. Take you how long to get through that? And it doesn't hurt that I think Mr. Ray travels up.
Yep. He does. It started getting, when Jerry went back, it started getting
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Anybody else have anything else for Dan? John, I'll turn it back over to you.
I have nothing else. I'd like to thank Dan for his compliments. I appreciate that.
They are observations, they're not compliments.
I thought maybe there was a blue moon tonight or something. But thank you, and Deborah, thank you for yours too.
Anybody have any questions?
One, it was comments you made about these being good living wage jobs. How do you define what, like a man could work and raise 2 kids and put them through college, that kind of wages?
What kind of hourly wage is Experion looking at? Do you have any idea on some of those jobs?
We do, and please don't hold me to this because there is a range. But the average wage is about $50,000, $55,000, and that's day one. That's an annual wage, first year, second year person. So logic tells you that number's going to go up. If you're starting at 50, I'd take it. And that's a platform, and I think a lot of times, you know, I'm not an apologist for this. I have some authentic concerns about wage depression in certain industries. But we all sometimes forget. Because you got to start somewhere. And the wage, when I got hired here, I would have been happy to have a little more money. But I also thought, well, that's fair wage, and if I'm not terrible, I might earn more money.
Striving for the terrible.
Wow. I wasn't that. I misjudged the bar. I was going to have it clear, but I was already here by then, so now I got to work. Everybody around here look at when we start to look at some of these jobs that and in many of them.
And then you get a bump, and then you get a bump. I experienced that absolutely. Family sustaining jobs.
I guess what I was thinking about was more like Walmart or in the single mother working and their tax dollars are going to subsidize their housing, middle family, food stamps.
No, these are jobs that
Median wage in Lincoln County, what, mid-upper 30s? Demographics are 35, 38, something like that.
38 and change last time I looked.
Yeah, so it's above even the median, so that's a living wage in my views. Right down the service industry, wouldn't you raise a family on one of these jobs?
Any more? What do you need? Any more? Meeting adjourned.
You guys want 5 minutes before we head into finance?
Thank you all very, very much.
Dan, thank you.
Appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support.
Here your lunch.
5 minutes, did you say?
Let's go 5 minutes and then we'll hit finance.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh my goodness, it's always my pleasure.
That's all that was on it. If not, you might want to.
How fast finance goes.
It will be remarkable.
If finance is 5 minutes, and if finance is 5 minutes,
Remarkably short.
I probably need 2 minutes for what I need to do. So
Yeah, you're going to be sitting around twiddling thumbs.
I mean, we have a good 15-20 minute break. There's my list of the 10 that called. You remember this? I remember this. Yeah, got it done. You
Routinely have shrimp choke up.
yeah, and see this time here. Don't get here at that time. Get here after that time. Because if you wait to that time, too late. I've been there already.
You were late for lunch.
I usually always used to always wait until about noon and then leave and take, by the time I get out there, with truck. Well, half people left. And it's like you look at the food, it's been all picked up, but then they bring out more, stuff like that. So it's all right, but it's like, you want the, but it's really packed and crowded at that time. So you got Huh?
You didn't get the memo?
You spell camaraderie.
That's the only, I don't see that word on here anywhere. I don't see that word on here anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't see that word anywhere on here. I don't see FOOD either. You're
Okay,
looking at
utilities on it, been out for 10 years, almost. And I was on down there, a night or two a month, some months I don't even get down here. I get a motel.
Wait 1 year. I've come back. I've been on the beach side, on the Gulf side, flew 4 hours. And stayed there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And it was in May. Usually in April, just, you don't want to be there. It was a week. Yeah.
Week or 10 days.
Rick wants to go.
Yeah.
See you, Dan.
And so then in February, it stayed 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Saturday night, Sunday morning, I didn't get good sleep because Audra was up all the time. But last night,
And it's also working. Also, it's like you're out there working right now. Sit here. There you go, sit here.
So I didn't get the best night's sleep last night. You on? Yes.
I see Dick's invite to the Port Authority's open house. Did all you guys get a copy of that?
Yeah, in your absence, they were talking about the food.
Oh, at the Port Authority thing?
Yeah.
Who usually does Farside Catering usually does that, don't they?
I don't know. I don't know where they find shrimp that big.
No, they're not shrimp. They're
Prawns.
Yeah, yeah, mid-sized or something. I don't know. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking Doug's Farside Catering.
I can't remember seeing Doug there when I've been there, but he usually does me when you see Doug.
Yeah, you're right.
He's gonna be talking.
You're right. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Usually he's at the things that he does.
Yeah.
I don't think he did it last year.
No.
I think you would see him because he was gonna be talking to everybody there.
Oh, that's Rick.
All right, everybody here? 6:59, we'll start Finance Committee. Everybody got a copy that wants a copy? An extra copy?
We got a bunch of extras there.
You guys want one? First item, authorize and direct
Right,
mayor to
memorize it,
enter
just
into
look at it for a
a
couple
contract
seconds.
with the county for representation of indigent defendants. Keith?
We do this every year. Something we have to do. And it's not a surprise.
What's the budget amount for that?
It varies. They invoice us when they need money. You know,
What's an average?
I think that we give them a couple $1,000, and sometimes it will
be more than a year in between. It seems to me that when they run out of money, they invoice us and we give them money.
Yeah. I want to say, it was just recently, I think, that I saw a purchase order for the disposal of the ashes of an indigent.
No, that's indigent decedents.
Oh.
This is for
when they go
attorneys.
to court.
Oh, when you
somebody's indigent needs representation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is.
No, I thought it was talking about when someone died. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's healthcare.
These people are still alive.
So this is for the attorney.
Yes,
Legal expenses.
like legal aid.
We got about $1,000 a year, sounds like. Typically.
I don't know. It doesn't. It's not a lot of money, and
So we're not breaking the budget.
no.
Is it, I mean, not that we're going to, tilt the world on a different axis here, but is that does the state give the county the authority to basically get money from municipalities for that function, or is it just historical that that's what we do, but aren't necessarily required to do it, or how?
I don't know the answers to those questions, Mayor.
I'm just thinking because the court system is
It is historical.
okay.
It is, but the bottom line is if somebody's involved in some kind of an offense in Heath and they don't have a means for representation, somebody's got to do that. So the county's going to come back to us. So the county's the one that has an arrangement with the Bar Association, and one of the things that lawyers in the county do is they agree to waive a portion of their fees, and there's an expectation that the lawyers that do criminal work are going to do this for a pittance, and they're going to invoice us for that. And so the reason we enter into contract with the county is because they're the conduit for all of this.
Okay.
We could be our own conduit if you want to.
No, I guess what my question, or my viewpoint at least, is that the court system, not being a municipal function, being a county function,
Right.
if you have to make an attorney available to someone who can't otherwise afford it, is that the city's responsibility to pay for that attorney to be available, or is it the entity who's responsible for the court, which is the county?
Yeah, I guess I'd encourage that question to be asked of David Morrison. He could far better answer the question than I.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
I think it's along the same line you asked about the burial. The same way if a citizen, dies in Heath, and we have to bury them. The same way if they commit the crime in Heath and they're indigent, we'd have to pay. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of the same process that they went. It's along that same line.
Maybe. Okay.
But that's David,
Yeah.
But I think it's along that same line that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Comments? Anybody else? Committee members? Everybody okay with this? Again? Okay. The other item, Keith, budgets.
Mayor's been working on the budget. It's not ready. It'll be presented to you guys well before December 15th, but that's when it'll be read first. We've already talked about a special council meeting on the 23rd, and so it'll be read the second time then, and it's coming along well.
You'll have a list of all the highlights. You should make the changes.
it's Michigan the 5th.
That's what I was
Yeah.
Did
Keith, you mean the 22nd?
22nd.
Is the special meeting.
Monday, the
Yeah.
22nd, right?
Yeah.
7. Yeah, 22. Did I say 23rd?
Yeah, you said 23rd, but
I was thinking one thing and said something else. Sorry.
Anything else?
so we're definitely going to need that special meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Because originally
for the cleanup, too.
yeah.
Yeah, we originally said you wouldn't maybe schedule it until
But now we might as well go ahead and
you might as well announce it.
announce it.
Okay.
This is part of the service.
There may be a,
Service committee meeting.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have
there may be
15 or anything.
there may be like an open house between 4:30 and 5:30 to celebrate the departure of the city auditor on the 22nd. I'm just warning you that if you're gonna schedule your special council meeting, you probably ought to schedule it at 5:30 with the other meeting to follow.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
something.
That's fine.
Yeah. Council meeting at 5:30 service to follow the council meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you talked to Jay at all about swearing him in? Does he want to get sworn in that day too, or have you talked to him about that at all?
I have not, and I expect to start to see Jay showing up here for a day or two or three, and we haven't discussed that. I think we're kind of waiting for December to start.
Okay. Okay.
We'll chit chat with him about that. It'd be nice if he could get sworn in a little bit in advance, so he didn't have to worry about having it happen on December 2nd and January 2nd, and
yeah, I agree.
or January 1st in this case, because my last day is the 31st.
Yeah. We'll talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, one other thing. On that with the representation to the county, can that be held for a second reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
I got one. Since it has to do with financial, I'll say the financial disclosure thing. I have a list of everyone's name and their address. I just want to make sure that that's right, so I can tell Lynn that that's right. She can send it back.
Mine's right. You want this back?
No, I don't need yours back. I just need one. I just want to make sure if everyone's information was right on there, as far as if your name spelled right, your address right, is the main thing. I think everyone's is. I think it's the same as last year's. No, the report's not due yet. They send this back, and then they send out the report to everyone that's on this list.
Mine's right.
That's just making sure that
This is just making sure that they're asking the clerk to make sure that everyone is the right people on here and the right addresses and stuff. And then if you do it like we did last year, everything will be probably done online.
Okay. Now, will she need Jay's information or no, since he won't be
He's not elected
until 15?
Right.
Mine's good.
He may have to fill one out. No, because it says who served in 2014.
Exactly.
So he won't.
Okay.
Mine's
Or appointed vacancy any time, or it says or 2015. Whether elected or appointed to vacancy any time in 2015. Yeah. So. Yeah, he probably will have to
He
go
will
on there.
need to then if it says
He'll have to go on there.
point that out to Lynn.
Yeah.
And she can add him.
We can add him in there and stuff.
Mine's right.
Because he will be appointed during that time period. It says in 2014 or 2015.
Yep.
So he's been appointed. Yes, you're right. Yeah. He'll have to fill one out. Okay, I think that's all.
You check on it.
Yeah, everyone said
Yeah.
everything's okay, and I'll just have to add. I don't need it back.
All right, finances adjourned at 7:09.
Okay. Quickly do about this. Cletus, you do invocation? Sure. Introduction ordinance, the one can be held, ordinance 88 can be held for second reading. Ordinances on second reading. EMS grant, it's going to be used.